Bring in Andy Puzder, former CEO of CKA Restaurants and Heritage Foundation visiting fellow. Great to see you, Andy. You've been talking us through this. And by the way, our good friend Larry Kudlow has said very often on this program, this is a strong recovery. And if the Biden administration would just step out of the way, it'd be even stronger. Seems like you are making a similar case. But do you deny that there has been some good economic progress over the past year?
Well, I agree 100% with what Larry said. Look, of course there was going to be good economic progress. We shut the economy down. When you measure GDP, it's against the prior year. Well, in the prior year, state governments across the country, Republican and Democrats, shut their economies down. Everybody knew it was going to recover this year. But if you look at GDP dollars, right? You look at the trillions of dollars we have in this country in GDP. We had 19 trillion in GDP in 2019. With like 5.3 trillion in spending during 2020, and then another 2 trillion that the Biden administration has spent in 2021. GDP only went up to 19.4 trillion. It was like 2% higher than it was pre-pandemic. So trying to claim credit for this recovery based on his economic policies is just absurd.
It's an interesting move. I think we can all agree with that. So you just broke that down for us. And Arthur Herman is talking about the political consequences, Hudson Institute's fellow. Politics and the Great Confinement, he writes. Really interesting piece. He says in 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt called those left stranded by the Great Depression the forgotten man. Today, the Great Confinement has created a nation of forgotten Americans. A political earthquake may be coming. Will the political class realize what is happening in time to get ahead of what is coming? Or will they be swept along in its wake? This is such a great point because, Andy, are you seeing any signs that Democrats are waking up to this massive inflation crisis that almost every American is frustrated with?
No, they're not waking up to it, and they can't even admit the cause of it. You've got President Biden out there trying to blame everything under the sun, from people that make beef to whatever he can think of, when it's really driven by his economic policies, including the $2 trillion he spent at the beginning of this year, is really what has driven this incredible surge in inflation in the United States. Look, the media and the Democrats can't change course. They criticized the one person who was doing what the federal government competently could do during the pandemic, which was try and come up with a vaccine. And they continually criticize Republican governors like Governor DeSantis down in Florida, who was doing what state governments should have been doing, which was opening up the economies as soon as they possibly could. After criticizing those two individuals, Trump and DeSantis, how do they try and recover this year? They really can't recover because they can't advocate doing what needs to be done.
Well, you know, it's written on the walls for them that this spells political trouble for them. I mean, you look everywhere, every headline, every outlet. CNBC this morning, the country's angry. Democrats are going to get crushed in the midterm elections. CBS, worst inflation since '82, puts Dems in political jeopardy. CNN, inflation concerns could spell trouble for Democrats. So it's out there. No, they can't run from it. So we'll see. Obviously, big political implications. But obviously, this is something the American people are dealing with daily. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Good to see you.
Trace.